My father refuses to walk me down the aisle because his favorite daughter had a little party. Hi, I'm Valentina, I'm 28 years old, and I'm going to tell you the most absurd and painful story of my life. A story that involves my father, my younger sister, and how I discovered that sometimes family can be your worst enemy. Buckle up because this is going to be intense. First, a little context about my family. My father, Robert, owns a moderately successful construction company. We're not millionaires, but we live comfortably in suburban Chicago. My mother passed away when I was 15, leaving me, my sister Sophia, who was 10 at the time, and my father. From that moment on, Sophia became the apple of Dad's eye. Everything she did was perfect. Everything I did, well, let's say he always found something to criticize. Sophia, now 23, has never worked a day in her life. She lives at Dad's house, has her own car, which he bought her own credit card, which he pays, and basically lives like a princess. I, on the other hand, moved out at 18, studied industrial engineering while working part-time, graduated with honors, and now have my own apartment and a stable job at a Fortune 500 company. Ah, the classic daddy's favorite, who can't even make scrambled eggs. I'm sure this is going to end really well. For years I've tried to have a close relationship with my father, but it was always the same thing. If Sophia had an exam, the whole family had to be quiet. If I had an important presentation at work, he barely remembered. If Sophia wanted to go shopping, there was Dad with his wallet open. If I needed help with something, he was always too busy or didn't have money available. 2 years ago, I met Miguel, the love of my life. He's an architect, hardworking, respectful, and most importantly, he loves me just as I am. We got engaged last year and decided to get married this December. Miguel comes from a humble but close-knit family, from Texas, and from day one they treated me like a daughter. The difference with my own family was abysmal. When I told Dad about the engagement, his reaction was lukewarm. "Oh, that's nice, honey," without looking up from his newspaper. When Sophia found out, her first question was, "And I'm going to be the maid of honor, right?" As if my wedding was another event where she had to be the star. Because of course, in Sophia's world, all special occasions are about her. Soon, she'd be asking, to wear white to the wedding. I started planning the wedding with my own savings. Miguel and I decided on something intimate, about 80 people, in a nice but not extravagant venue in downtown Chicago. The only thing that really mattered to me was that my father would walk me down the aisle. It had been my dream since I was a little girl, especially after Mom died. I wanted that moment with him, to feel that for once in my life, I was his priority. 3 months before the wedding, I sat down with Dad in the living room of his house in Naperville. Sophia was there too, as always, glued to him like a barnacle. "Dad," I said, "I want to confirm with you that you're going to walk me down the aisle on December 15th. He looked at me strangely and said, "December 15th? But that's Sophia's graduation party day." I froze. "What graduation party?" Sophia, with that little smile I hate so much, said, "Oh, Valentina, I forgot to tell you. My friends organized a party to celebrate that I graduated from graphic design school. It's going to be super fun." "But Sophia," I said, trying to stay calm, "you graduated 6 months ago. Why is the party exactly on my wedding day?" "Oh, sister, don't be selfish. My friends are super busy. This was the only day they could do it. Besides, your wedding is in the afternoon, my party is at night. Dad can go to both." My father, instead of supporting me, said, "Valentina, your sister's party is important. She worked really hard in college. She worked really hard. The graphic design degree that Dad paid for, and that took her 6 years to finish because she took a semester off every time she felt stressed. Yeah, real hard work." "Dad," I said with a broken voice, "it's my wedding. I'm only going to get married once. I've dreamed of you walking me down the aisle since I was a child. Don't be dramatic, Valentina. I can walk you down the aisle and then go to Sophia's party. I don't see what the problem is." "The problem is that my reception is also that day. My wedding starts at 4 p.m., the ceremony is at 5, and the party goes until 11 p.m. When exactly are you going to go to Sophia's graduation party?" Sophia intervened. "Well, you can change the time of your wedding. Make it earlier." I was speechless. I had spent months organizing everything, paid deposits, confirmed with vendors, sent invitations, and she was asking me to change everything for a party that was organized out of nowhere. I'm not Going to change the time of my wedding, I said firmly. My father sighed as if I were the most unreasonable person in the world. Then you're going to have to find someone else to walk you down the aisle. I'm not going to miss Sophia's party. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Father of the Year, he prefers a belated graduation party over his daughter's wedding, because clearly, priorities are crystal clear. I got up from the chair, shaking with rage and pain. Seriously, Dad, a graduation party that can be done any day is more important than walking your daughter down the aisle. Don't get like that, Valentina. Sophia needs me there. She's more sensitive than you. If I don't go, she'll feel bad. And what about me? Won't I feel bad? You're stronger, you understand. Sophia, with a fake smile, added, Besides, sister, Miguel's best man can walk you down the aisle. Or Miguel's dad. It's not that big of a deal. I left that house crying like I hadn't cried in years. Miguel found me in my apartment in tears, and when I told him what had happened, he was furious. He hugged me and said, My love, my dad would be honored to walk you down the aisle if you want. But I didn't want Miguel's dad to walk me down the aisle. I wanted my dad. I wanted for once in my life to be his priority. The following days were horrible. I told my aunts, my cousins, close family friends. Everyone was outraged. My Aunt Carmen, my mum's sister, called me to tell me she couldn't believe my father's attitude. Several family members tried to talk to him, but he stood firm in his decision. A week later, Sophia called me. Valentina, I don't want us to be fighting over this. How about we make a compromise? Dad goes to your wedding and I change my party to another day. For a moment I felt relief, but something in her tone made me suspicious. Would you really do that? Of course, sister. Family comes first, doesn't it? But 2 days later, my cousin, Andrea, sent me an Instagram screenshot. Sophia had posted a story that said, Super excited for my graduation party on December 15th. My dad is going to give a beautiful speech. Sophia, being Sophia, promises one thing and does another. It's like manipulation is her real major, not graphic design. I confronted her over the phone and she said, Oh, Valentina, I thought you had already found someone else to walk you down the aisle. My party is all organized now. I can't change it. It was at that moment that I decided I wasn't going to beg anymore. If my father preferred an insignificant party over the most important day of my life, so be it. But he wasn't going to get away with it without consequences. You see, there's something that neither my father nor Sophia knew, something I had kept secret because I thought it wasn't important, but now it became very relevant. When my mother died, she left me something very special. She had inherited from my grandmother a property in downtown Chicago. It wasn't a house, it was commercial real estate that my grandmother had bought decades ago for a steal. My mother never told my father about this inheritance because she wanted it to be for me when I turned 25. When I turned 25, Mom's lawyer contacted me and gave me the documents. The property, which my grandmother had bought for pennies in the 1970s, was now worth a fortune because it was in an area that had become premium commercial real estate. We're talking about almost $500,000. Plot twist. The less favored daughter turns out to be a millionaire. Oh, how things change when there's money involved. I never told my family about this because I didn't want my relationship with them to change because of money. I continued living on my salary, saving, being independent. I left the property there, generating rental income from the shops that were built on it, thinking that someday I would sell it to buy a house with Miguel. But after my father's attitude, I decided it was time to use this information to my advantage. 2 weeks before the wedding, I organized a family dinner at my apartment. I invited my father, Sophia, and my closest aunts and cousins. I told them I had something important to announce about the wedding. Everyone arrived expecting me to announce that I had found someone else to walk me down the aisle, or maybe that I had decided to change the date to accommodate Sophia's party. With Miguel by my side, I stood in front of everyone and said, Family, I gathered you because I want to share something with you. As you know, my wedding is in a week, and unfortunately my father won't be able to walk me down the aisle because he has more important commitments. My father shifted uncomfortably in his chair, but said nothing. I continued, But I want to take this opportunity to give you some very exciting news. Miguel and I bought our honeymoon house. Everyone smiled and congratulated us. Then I dropped the bomb. Yes, we bought a beautiful house in the most exclusive residential area of the North Shore, We were able to pay for it in cash, thanks to the inheritance my mother left me. The confused faces were immediate. "What inheritance?" asked my Aunt Carmen. I took out the papers and showed them. "Mom left me the commercial property downtown, where the Millennium Shopping Center is. I sold it last month." The silence that followed was so epic, you could cut it with a knife. Even Sophia stopped checking her phone. My father turned pale. "What are you talking about, Valentina? Your mother never had properties." "Yes, she did, Dad. It was Grandma Rosa's inheritance. Mom never told you because she wanted it to be just for me. The lawyer gave me everything when I turned 25, just like she wanted." Sophia, for the first time in her life, was speechless. "How much?" My father could barely articulate the question. "How much was it worth?" "Well, after taxes and commissions, we ended up with $420,000 clean." The shock on their faces was indescribable. My father, who had treated me like the less successful daughter all his life, had just discovered that I had more money than he did. "Valentina," my father stuttered, "why didn't you ever tell us?" "Because I wanted our relationship to be genuine, Dad. I wanted you to love me for who I am, not for what I have." Sophia, recovering from the initial shock, asked, "And why are you telling us now?" "Because I wanted you to understand why I don't care that Dad won't walk me down the aisle. I have the resources to make my wedding exactly how I want it, without depending on anyone. Miguel's father, a man who has known me for 2 years but treats me with more respect than my own father, will be honored to walk me down the aisle." Sophia's face when she realized her failed sister was actually rich was priceless. I think for the first time in her life she understood she wasn't the center of the universe. My father tried to fix things. "Valentina, I didn't know. Maybe we can talk about the wedding." "No, Dad, you already made your decision. Sophia's graduation party is more important. I respect that." But I wasn't done. I took out another envelope. "I also wanted to inform you that Miguel and I have decided to move to Seattle after the honeymoon. He got an incredible position at a top architecture firm there, and I'm going to open my own consulting business." More shock. My Aunt Carmen asked, "For how long?" "Indefinitely. We're thinking of making our life there, starting our family away from complications." My father finally understood what was happening. His daughter, the one he had always underestimated, was not only financially independent but was leaving the state. And not because she was an adventurer, but because she was leaving in pain, moving away from a family that never valued her. "Valentina, please don't make drastic decisions. We can solve this." "There's nothing to solve, Dad. Everyone made their decisions. I made mine." The dinner ended in sepulchral silence. Sophia left without saying a word. My father tried to stay to talk, but I told him there was nothing more to discuss. The next day my father showed up at my office. He begged me to reconsider, told me he would cancel everything to walk me down the aisle. But it was too late. The damage was done. "Dad," I told him, "all my life I waited for you to see me, to value me, to be your priority even once. You preferred an insignificant party over the most important day of my life. That decision tells me everything I need to know about your love for me." My wedding was perfect. Miguel's father walked me down the aisle with as much pride as if I were his own daughter. My father arrived late to the ceremony, I imagine after Sophia's party, and sat in the back. Sophia didn't even show up. But the best part was Miguel's father's speech during the reception. He talked about how he had seen me struggle for the relationship with my family, how he had admired my strength, and how his family had adopted me from day one. "Valentina," he said, "you've gained not just a husband, but a family that will always value you." Miguel's dad showed more paternal love in one speech than my own father did in 28 years. You have to recognize when someone shows you who they really are. Update 1. I'm writing this from our apartment in Seattle. The move was easier than I expected, mainly because I decided to cut ties completely with my family. My father has tried to contact me countless times. Calls, emails, messages on all social media. He even asked my aunts to intervene. But I've been clear I don't want to have contact with him or Sophia. What has surprised me most is how the rest of the family has reacted. My aunts, my cousins, even some of my father's friends have cut relationships with him. My Aunt Carmen told me there was a horrible family argument where they basically told him he was a terrible father and had lost the best daughter he could have. Sophia, for her part, has become the laughingstock of the family. Her famous graduation party was a disaster. It turns out she organized everything expecting my father to pay, as always. But he was so depressed after my wedding that he didn't even go. Sophia had to cancel most things because she didn't have money to pay for them. Instant karma. The princess discovers that without daddy paying for everything, organizing a party is harder than she thought. My aunt told me that Sophia is now desperate because she realized I was her retirement plan. She always thought that when Dad died I would support her as the responsible older sister. Now that she knows I'm leaving the country and want nothing to do with her, she's panicking. She's also tried to contact me, sending me messages like, "Sorry sister, I made a mistake and family is the most important thing." But it's too late. It's not just about the wedding. It's a lifetime of being treated as second class. Miguel has supported me completely. His family has welcomed me with open arms here in Seattle, and honestly I feel more loved and valued than I ever felt in my own home. Update 2. It's been a year since my wedding, and 6 months since I completely blocked my father and sister. My new life in Seattle is everything I dreamed of and more. My consulting business is growing incredibly. I have clients in Washington, California, and even some in Illinois. Miguel is happy at his job, and we're expecting our first baby in March. Turns out, when you get away from toxic people, even when it's family, life improves dramatically. Who would have thought? But the most shocking thing is what my Aunt Carmen told me last week. My father is bankrupt. It turns out his whole successful construction company was sustained by loans and debts. When he got depressed after my wedding, according to my aunts, he wouldn't leave his house, wouldn't go to work, just lamented losing his daughter. He neglected the business. He lost several important clients, couldn't pay his employees, and eventually had to close the company. Now he's trying to sell the family house in Naperville to pay debts. Sophia, of course, is furious because she's going to be left without her palace and without her unlimited credit card. The most ironic thing is that my aunt told me my father has been telling everyone that if Valentina had been here, she would have helped me save the business. And my daughter was always the smart one in the family. Really? Now he recognizes I'm smart? When he needs my money? My Aunt Carmen asked me if I would consider helping them. I told her no. My father had 28 years to value me and chose not to. I'm not going to rescue him now that he needs my money. Sophia, desperate, got my new phone number, I don't know how, and called me crying. She told me Dad was sick with depression, that they needed help, that please come back. I told her, Sophia, when I needed my father's emotional support on my wedding day, he chose your party. Now that he needs my financial support, I choose my own family. The irony is delicious. The man who preferred a party over his daughter now needs that same daughter to save him. But some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. Update. My son, Robert Miguel. Yes, I named him Robert after my father, but he'll be raised by the grandfather who deserves it. Just turned 6 months old. He's the most beautiful baby in the world, and Miguel's parents adore him. My consulting firm now has 8 employees, and we're opening an office in Portland. Miguel was promoted to partner at his firm. We bought a beautiful house in Bellevue where we want to raise our children. Last month, I received a letter from a lawyer in Chicago. My father had died. I'm not going to lie, I cried. Despite everything, he was my dad. But I cried more for the relationship we never had than for losing him, because honestly, I had lost him a long time ago. The saddest thing is that he died without meeting his grandson, without fixing things with me, clinging to his pride until the end. The lawyer informed me that my father had left me a letter and had tried to leave me something in the will, but since all his properties went to pay debts, there was no inheritance. The letter said, Valentina, I know I made mistakes with you and I know it's too late to fix them. I want you to know that I was always proud of you, but I didn't know how to show it. Your sister always needed me more, or so I thought, and I thought you were so strong that you didn't need my support. I was wrong. Forgive me. Too little, too late. Typical. He realized his mistake when there was no turning back. Some parents never learn that the favorite isn't always the most successful. Sophia is living with a friend, working for the first time in her life at a clothing store. My aunt tells me she's still hoping I'll come back to save the family, but that's not going to happen. My family now is Miguel, my son, and the in-laws who treated me better than my own blood from day one. Sometimes people ask me if I regret cutting contact with my father. The answer is no. I regret not doing it sooner, because in the end, family isn't just blood. Family is the people who choose you, value you, and are there when you need them. And I found my real family on the other side of the country, with a man who sees me as the treasure I am, and in-laws who gave me the paternal love that my own father never could. And that's where this intense story ends. What do you all think? Do you think Valentina was too harsh cutting contact completely, or did her father deserve it for preferring a party over his daughter's wedding? Would you have forgiven or also kept your distance? If this story moved you as much as it did me, don't forget to give this video a like. It really helps me so much with the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel if you want more stories like this, and share with that person you know who will also be outraged by this story. And speaking of stories that will leave you speechless, right here on screen you have another super intense story about family revenge that you can't miss. Click on it, and let's stay together on this channel where the stories never stop surprising. See you in the next video.